You know, if you last forever, I will keep you till the day I die, 'cause you're such a special car. Oh, hey guys, I didn't know you guys were watching. Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be doing an oil change on my car. Well, let me show you what you guys need. Alright, let me show you what you guys need. First of all, we're going to start off with oil. Obviously, that's what we need. 5W20 in my case. You can find that out either by looking on top of the oil fill cap in your engine bay. It's on there. Or if you go to the parts store, they can look it up, year, make, and model, and engine size. That'll tell you everything you need to know for the oil, the capacity, so you know how much to get. And then as well for an oil filter, we're going to always want to replace our oil filter when we do an oil change. I prefer to go with K&N. It's one of the filters that I've always used. It's totally up to you. If price varies, it's all in a personal opinion. So on for the tools that we're going to need a oil filter removal tool. In this case, I have the clamp size. Sometimes you can, in some they'll have like a nut on the end. You can use a nut to remove them. I don't really like using them because they crack really easy, especially if you're trying to put it back on. But in this case, it just tightens down onto the oil filter, and that'll take it off. When you put them on, they're not very tight. You always just, hand tighten them, and then maybe a little bit more. Just, you don't want to over tighten your filter. And then we will need a 17 millimeter to do the oil drain plug. This is again specific to my Honda. I will be using a wrench for that to take it off, and then I will be getting torque specs, and I will be torquing this to the factory torque specs. I always recommend doing it as close to factory as you can. You don't run into problems later and bolts coming loose, and or over tighten them and then they snap. Then you gotta replace a bunch of parts. It's always recommend doing torque specs. Let me show you the first step. Okay, so I got it up on the lift. My block's down there because it's too low. When you go to put it on the lift, you run into not being able to get the arms underneath. It's a lowered life for you, but I do not mind. It's a little sacrifice. All right, so what we're going to be doing here first is we're going to be going ahead and removing our drain plug up in here. Like I said, in my specific case, it is a 17 millimeter. So I want to go ahead and bust that loose and then show you guys draining the oil for you. All right, went ahead and busted that loose. I have a drain catcher here. It goes down into the big drum right there. So I'm gonna see, hopefully I set this up right, so this, because it's gonna come out at an angle like that. Hopefully I set it up right that it'll go right into the drum and not over the floor. I mean, we have a wash, so we could wash the floor so we don't get any contaminants. So go ahead and bust this loose. Alright, till it starts to click, and then alright, you can hear it going down in. Look at that nasty oil. It's only 5,000 miles on that, so I'm gonna go ahead and move this over. So yeah. Okay, I just wanted to point this out really quick. This is the seal for the oil pan. This goes on top of the bolt that seals it. Make sure you put that back in, because if you dropped it into the oil pan and you don't put it back in, then you're going to run into problems with it not sealing correctly and oil leaking, and then you have to replace that or put a new seal in there, and you have to replace your oil again. So just make sure you put that seal back onto the bolt before you thread it back into the oil pan and fill it up. Okay, I just checked in the Haynes manual, and for this car, for the torque specs for the oil drain plug, it is 33 foot-pounds. You can see your foot-pound symbols here. And then for the torque wrench, each line that goes all the way down, so like this line right here, that's 50. You can see how it goes over and down. And in my case, it's 33 foot-pounds, so I'm going to want to adjust this all the way up past 30. So that's 30 foot-pounds right there. And then there's the 1, 2, 3, and then that'll lock in so it won't change while you're using it. Alright, I went ahead and put that oil drain plug back in. I have the 17mm on our torque wrench. I'm going to put this on here, and then we'll tighten it down till we hear it click. There we go, and that's the torque specs. And then next we'll be removing our oil filter, which in my case is directly above the oil pan right here. You can see it hiding away up in there. So I'm going to go ahead and get the tool and take that out. So I couldn't exactly show you me using the tool up in there, but I went ahead and loosened it. Now I can turn it off by hand. Get a little oil down here. Like I said, we'll have to wash that up. Maybe if you put your catch pan under there just to get it so it doesn't go all over the place. But we'll go ahead and turn this off all the way. Almost there. There we go. And we'll take that out. Alright, I have the oil filter off now. Just one thing I want to point out, you want to compare them. Make sure they look at least close. In this case, I mean, it's a little bit taller, but we're fine with that. They look the same this way. They're both specifically for my car. Like I said, I prefer K&N, but last time they didn't have any. So I just went ahead and got this brand here. This time I have the K&N. So one thing I want to say, what you'll want to do is we'll put a date and then the miles we did. So in my case, it is October 8th. And then I just hit 170,000 miles. So that way next time when we take that filter off, we can know how many miles are on that filter. One thing else I wanted to point out was when you take your old filter off, you want to make sure you get that gasket right here out. You don't want that sitting up in there and end up double gasketing it. This one has a new gasket on it. If you put this gasket on, or you leave it on there and then you put this one on top of it, you have oil leaks. It turns into a big mess. No fun. So that, and then as well, what I want to do is I take my finger and I dip it into the new oil and I get a little bit on there, and then I'll take it and I'll put it on this seal and I'll just rub it around like that. And then, just so it's lubricated, and that'll help it seal directly against the flange. In my case, the oil filter sits on its side like this. So if you have an oil filter that goes directly up, I would advise filling it with oil before you put it on. But like I said, in my case, it sits on its side. So you fill it with oil, and by the time you get it up there and screw it on, like 3/4 of it leaks out. So there's no point in that for me. So I'm going to go ahead and reinstall this oil filter. Like I said, you tighten it down, get it hand tight, and then you can use that tool if you need to, or just take your hand, pinch it really tight, and just give it a little bit of a snug. Something that's not going to just come loose right away, but yet you don't want to over tighten it and have that gasket when it heats expand and then get it stuck on there. But I'm going to go ahead and reinstall that, and then we can fill it up with oil. I went ahead and put that filter back on there and made sure the oil drain plug was tightened down correctly. Now I'm at the top here. I took the oil fill cap off and the dipstick out. I cleaned them, and I have a funnel with my oil here. I'm gonna go ahead and start pouring this down in here. Like I said earlier, you can look up your specs. In my case, mine takes just under 5 quarts. So I'm gonna put all but a little bit in there. Okay, you can look on the side of the jug, or in my case, it's about that much left. So put this down here. This over here as well, and then you can take your dipstick, take it down in there, put it in, and just check your level. That right there is pretty good, right on. All right, so we can put our dipstick back, put our oil fill cap back on there, tighten it down, and everything is done. If you want to check that maybe after you get home and you're going for work tomorrow, before you get up, just check that dipstick, just make sure your levels are correct. Carry a little oil with you if you need to, just in case things settle or they get distributed. Like I said, you're gonna, in my case, it's gonna fill that filter yet, and then it's gonna get distributed around the engine. So you can check it again in a day or so, and if it needs topped off, then you can do that. If not, you're all set. So there you go. That's how you change the oil. If you last me forever, I'll keep you until What the heck are you doing in here? I told you never to come in here. Seriously, come back here! Thanks for watching that video, guys. If you guys like the type of video and you guys want to see more content, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Until then, we'll see you in the future.